Welcome to this week's edition of World Crisis Radio. This is Webster Tarpley speaking to you from Washington, D.C., and it's the afternoon of Friday, September 12th, 2014. Now, a number of events are converging in terms of the necessary actions by persons of goodwill across the globe. One is the unbelievable media hype of the Western NATO-controlled media in favor of that collection of patsies, psychotics, misfits, double agents, mercenaries, brigands known as ISIS. 20 to 30,000 crazies, we're told, are going to conquer the world and create an empire. Well, I guess Tamerlane did it, but I don't see any Tamerlanes in evidence. And on the other side, we're getting reports from the statistical people, the 538 group. They see a 62% chance of the Republicans taking over the Senate. The Rothenberg political report suggests that there's going to be a wave election, a tidal wave, a tsunami in favor of the reactionary Republicans, and they're going to gain 7 seats in the Senate. Well, we know from the Mitch McConnell secret tape where he's groveling for one of the Koch brothers that they will use writers, they will use the budget reconciliation to make sure that everything is rolled back, genocidal austerity, killer cuts in our country, and they will also make sure that there's no relief for those groaning under high-interest student loan debt, and there'll be no help for people who are threatened by foreclosure or anything like this. And there'll be no increase in the minimum wage. So how can these two questions be dealt with? Well, I think the answer comes down to the irascible, apoplectic John McCain, the raving warmonger, the unreconstructed neocon who has forgotten nothing and learned absolutely nothing. A warmonger, and somebody whose military career also is not beyond question, but we won't go into that right now. We'll save that for later. Why does the Democratic Party not get a hold of McCain cavorting in Idlib, Syria in April of 2013 with the world's top terrorist, Baghdadi? At that time, he was already Baghdadi when McCain sat down with him at that table, and you see the picture on the front page of Tarpley.net. It's all up there at Tarpley.net. McCain sits down with a group calling itself the Military Council of the Free Syrian Army. But of course, they're just crazies with different hats, and individual crazies put on different hats, right? They have fun doing that. So McCain sits down, and across from him is this guy known as Bakri at that time, but he was already Baghdadi. That's his nom de bataille, his nom de guerre. So he's Bakri Baghdadi, already the head of ISIS, and then he goes on to become Caliph Ibrahim of the Caliphate, which means the worldwide empire to which everybody is supposed to be subjected. Of course, hard to do with only 30,000 crazies, but maybe they think they can get more. Why does the Democratic Party, aren't there some more congressmen, some senators, some people who are in tough races, put out this McCain picture? McCain consorts with terrorists. McCain gives material support to terrorists. He is committing overt acts, giving aid and comfort to the enemies of the United States and adhering to them and giving them aid and comfort. And there are plenty of witnesses to that overt act, to those overt acts. And you know what I'm talking about. That is the constitutional definition of betraying the country. So we have this picture of McCain sitting down. And of course, Salim Idris, the supposed head until he fled, of the Free Syrian Army Military Council, the guy who fled to Doha and perhaps Turkey, and some of his staff fled to Stockholm. They all left when their warehouses were seized at the end of last year, beginning of this year. That's where the Free Syrian Army was meeting. So you've got Idris and you've got Baghdadi, and they're all members of the Military Council of the Free Syrian Army. So how is it, the ineptitude, the stupidity, the cowardice of the Democratic Party? If you're running against somebody, suppose you're running against Ben Sass, you can say, Ben, when you get to Washington and you have your first meeting of the Republican caucus, ask your pal McCain why he pals around with terrorists, to coin a phrase. And of course, with the case of Obama, it was palling around with people who had been terrorists 20 or 30 years before, right, who had sort of run out of gas. Bad, of course, very bad, and I denounced it. But this is obviously much worse, right, when you've got these crazies, cannibals on the march. And speaking of cannibals, a part of that same gathering, more or less, maybe not exactly in that room, but we're still waiting for the full identification of everybody in those pictures. McCain is later then shown standing up and looking at the camera. That picture is also on Tarpley.net. We have him posing with the person who is widely recognized as the cannibal, the guy who cuts out the heart of his enemy and eats it on camera. So what I'm saying is, Democrats, people who don't want the Republicans to dictate genocidal austerity against the American people, right? Food stamps, minimum wage, that will all be shredded. There may be no minimum wage when they get done. There may be no food stamps when these reactionary Republicans get done. I'm talking Cannibal Gate against John McCain. I'm talking Caliph Gate against McCain. Baghdadi Gate. ISIS Gate against McCain. Why was he meeting with those terrorists? What did he promise them? Well, we have a little window into that. We have this statement by McCain where he says, all of us wanted to arm ISIS, a Freudian slip, maybe, lapsus Freudianus. We all wanted to arm ISIS. I think he means Hillary, Petraeus, Panetta, and the rest of them. We all wanted to arm ISIS, but Obama stopped us by himself. Well, that's pretty good advertising copy for Obama. We also want to know this reported meeting, right? Thierry Masson says that when he was there in Libya, he actually got to look at a document which was the summary of a secret NATO meeting held in February 2011, just as this entire orgy of destabilization, tsunami of putschs was getting going. McCain was apparently present at the February 2011 secret NATO meeting in Cairo. According to some, he was the chairman of the meeting. And we're told that also in that meeting, according to Masson, Bernard-Henri Lévy, who later on whispered in Sarkozy's ear, time to bomb Libya, and a failed state, an open sore, a terrorist base on the Mediterranean is now the result. And, of course, the Libyan turncoat Jibril, who walked into the meeting as an official of the Libyan government, but then he had a Cairo Road moment, and then he turned into a Democratic rebel. So McCain, and of course Mitch McConnell promising Koch genocidal austerity. Back in a minute. The afternoon of Friday the 12th of September here in Washington. So that, I think, is a strategy. Get a hold of those pictures of McCain with the Caliph, with Baghdadi, the head of ISIS, haggling, offering. Get a hold of the picture of McCain with the cannibal, and then you can show the picture of the guy, the cannibal, eating the human heart. And then maybe that tape where McCain says, we all wanted to arm ISIS, but Obama wouldn't let us. And then let's get some leaks going about that NATO meeting, February 2011 in Cairo. McCain, were you there? Were you the chairman? What did you talk about? Did you talk about the way that the Muslim Brotherhood was going to overthrow those governments and then set up terror regimes? Now, the Republicans, I think, are in potentially very bad shape, although unfortunately the Democrats, too cowardly, too stupid to see this. When an American president goes on television, as Obama did, and you can point to these films, right, whatever the films are worth. I don't think the films are worth that much, but the films are an undoubted propaganda success. So let's start from the perception, I guess, since we have to. President goes on television and he says he's asking for support against ISIS. There is a rally round effect, okay? Even Carter got it. If Carter got it, anybody can get it. The population closest ranks around the president tends to support what he's proposing, especially since he's proposing something they can understand, right? Do some bombing, get some other people to send in troops. So it's relatively easy to grasp, does not comport tremendous sacrifices on the surface. The Republicans are freaking. That's what I see. The Republicans are freaking about the rally round effect, and their response is carping, nitpicking, sniping, foot dragging, and cowardice. They say, oh, but you said this on the 19th, and now on the 22nd, you had a comma in a different place, and all this endless textual stupidity. You said they were the JV, and they're really the varsity. All right. Strategic debates are about actions, not words. It is the guns that speak, not the teleprompters. So the Republicans, I think, are extremely vulnerable on this, and they're the leader of their party. I'm sorry, McCain, right? Since Mitt has gone back into semi-retirement, McCain is the main voice of the Republican Party. Now, concerning, we have Cannibal Gate, Caliph Gate, ISIS Gate, Baghdadi Gate, McCain Gate. The other thing is, if this reaches a certain momentum, you could see the other night when he got on there with Carney on CNN, all of this covered on the Twitter feed, right? Webster G. Tarpley Twitter feed. You can goad McCain into a frenzy. You know the Lincoln movie where the Democrats try to goad Thad Stevens into a frenzy and make him say things? Well, McCain is perpetually apoplectic. You can goad him into a frenzy. And they'll say, yes, we wanted to arm ISIS to attack Assad and then send them to attack Iran and then send them to attack Russia. Because, of course, we now have the statement from, we had it last week already, the statement from Baghdadi or his gang, right, the ISIS people. They say they want to attack Russia. They want to attack Russia through Chechnya. They want to go through the Caucasus and Transcaucasus. They wish to strike at Moscow. And interestingly enough, John Kerry on his trip gave a interview to the Voice of America where he says, we want Russia to understand that they're a target. They're a target, says Kerry, kind of a threat in its own way, but that the Russians would be welcome in the coalition. Well, if the Russians are welcome in the coalition, I've talked about this before, why not send an air wing of Russian fighter bombers to Syria and let them handle that side of the border? So the nice division of labor, U.S. on the Iraqi side and Russia on the Syrian side. But of course, the Syrians have been openly welcoming. We have the deputy foreign minister of Syria yesterday. That is Mr. Mekdad. This is the number 2 for Moalem. So we had Moalem 2 weeks ago, Mekdad now. That Syria will welcome U.S. efforts against the common enemy, the terrorists of ISIS. Now, I would urge the Russians and others to look at it this way, right? I think Assad is a great realist. I think Assad is flexible. He's not a pedant. He's not going to worry about the technicalities of international law. I think if the U.S. or anybody